Hello everybody and welcome back to Cooking for Real. I have changed my work schedule. I now work overnights, so I've had to pivot the way that I cook for the family. So tonight let me show you how I meal prep, and let's take a look at this week's menu. It is 11:30 at night and we're about to get started on cooking 5 separate meals. However, one of them is going into the crock pot, so I'm going to do its prep work on its own and get it going, and then I'll start doing the prep work for the other 4 meals. To get started here, I have 5 boneless chicken thighs, and what I'm going to do real quickly here is just trim off the parts that I don't want. Now that the fat and connective tissue have been removed from those chicken thighs and I cubed them up, threw them in the pot, I'm going to start preparing the vegetables. I have carrots, potatoes, celery. I have some garlic as well. I will get those prepared and put them in the pot according to hardness. The carrots will go in first, then the potatoes topped with celery and the garlic. 5 different meals means prepping a lot of different vegetables. As you can see, we've already taken care of the stuff for the chicken stew. The pasta and meat sauce is a given, so I don't have to deal with anything there. But I will have to make coleslaw, guacamole, mashed potatoes, squash, and then julienne some vegetables to go in the beef stir fry. So we're going to prep most of those vegetables before cooking right now. Now that I have all the vegetables prepped, or at least in the process of prepping, I have potatoes on the boil for mashed potatoes. I have cut up all of my vegetables for my stir fry. I have my squash cut and ready to go. Guacamole's made and packaged. Coleslaw's in the fridge as well. We're going to move on with starting to prep the proteins for this week's menus. So first up, I'm going to prep the beef for the beef stir fry. It's widely known that in American Chinese restaurants they use cornstarch to help make this meat tender. So that's what I'm going to do. I got a little lazy about the cubes of beef. That's about 1/3 of a cup. We're going to add that. A little salt, a little pepper. Pull our sleeves up. And we want to make sure all of these pieces are coated. Really work it around in there. This is also going to help keep it from sticking together eventually when we put it in the pan to cook it. Next up, we're going to prepare the cod. This is a cod loin, and I am going to do my best to cut this into 9 equal portions. Now once again, cornstarch is our friend, because that will be how I coat the fish. Salt, pepper, and in this case, we are going to add dill. And once again, we will evenly coat. Now that those pieces are pretty evenly coated, we are going to let them sit as well. Now we're preparing a little baked chicken. I have boneless, skinless chicken breasts here. And we're going to put a little olive oil on them. What I have here is some dehydrated tomato. And here I have some dehydrated jalapeno pepper flakes. And now I'm going to give that a hit of basil. A salt pinch shared between all 3 breasts, and we're just going to go around the circle with some pepper. We've reached a point now where we're going to have several things happening all at once. So what I need to do now is to get this chicken in the oven, and you're going to notice that I'm putting this on a rack. It's because I've learned that when I cook chicken this way, it tends to sit in its own juices, and it gets soggy in a weird way. Now I'm going to insert a meat thermometer, making sure to go into the center of the thickest part. Just set that for chicken and take it out when the alarm goes off. One of the downsides to cooking this way is you only have so many pans and, as you can see, so much oven space. So you end up cleaning up multiple times a night, as evidenced by the pile of dishes that are behind you, clean and waiting to fry. Right now what I'm doing is adding the hamburger to the pan. I'm going to salt and pepper that. And probably nothing else because I made a nice homemade sauce, and that homemade sauce has all the flavor I need. Over in this pan, I have oil heating up for that fish. I've just taken this over and drained off all of the fat. I'm turning the heat down to the very lowest temperature it can go. And the sauce is going in with the meat. We're going to let that cook together, and eventually, hopefully, over here we'll be making the pasta that goes with this sauce. Fish tacos are actually the first plate I can actually put together. I have everything ready to go for this. I've made it so that each plate would have 3 tacos. Now, I'm actually only going to put the fish in each shell because I want them to be able to reheat this later. So if all of the cold stuff was in there, then you would make the cold stuff mushy when you reheated your food. So if we go like so, place this bowl. There's some coleslaw to go on top. And a ready-made container of guacamole. Let's wrap that. One fish taco dinner. Gonna bake 2 more. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning. The taco dish is done. The stew doesn't have to be touched for a while. The meat sauce is ready to go. I'm about to add the pasta into the water, and the chicken is in the oven. So we only have a few more things to go after this, but they are probably the ones that require the most attention. Now that the pasta is done, each of these has 7 ounces of pasta in them, and I will add the sauce. Perfect. Each of these dishes has about a pound of food in them. So I'm going to lid these up and put them away now. Next up, this is a family favorite. I have olive oil and a couple of pats of butter in this pan. I'm going to let that melt. And we're going to bring over, earlier I minced some garlic and some celery, and I have granulated onion, and we'll do some salt and pepper on top of that. So into the pan goes the sliced up vegetables that I sliced up earlier tonight. That is zucchini and summer squash. Pepper. Salt. Minced garlic. Celery. And that granulated onion. We're going to cook all of that together, hopefully brown some edges, and we'll be back when that's doing a little better. Okay, so this is coming along nicely. As you can see, there's a lot of browning going on here. The chicken has come out of the oven and it is resting, and I am making a little pan gravy over here. And it's okay that I go back and forth with these because this was all cooked and this is the side dish. that is going with the chicken. In this pan here, I have all of the vegetables that I prepped for the stir fry. I've lost my lid, but I'm gonna lid this up and I'm going to steam them to about 3/4 of the way. Otherwise they end up really tough and chewy in the stir fry. Okay, so I just took the zucchini out of this pan and there's still a lot of chopped up onion and garlic and butter and olive oil in here. So I'm just going to add the last of this garlic and that beef. Now I made a sauce, and the sauce has some olive oil, oyster sauce, a tiny bit of sesame oil, and a little bit of soy. We're going to add that to the pan. This will be the base of our stir fry. Each of these has about 7 ounces of that chicken sliced up. And another 7 ounces of potato. Next up, we will add some of that squash to each container, and then that gravy that I made. And here you have 4 roast chicken dinners. And here we have 1 complete beef stir fry. What I have here is about a pound of rice that I made with turkey broth. That turkey broth actually was made from the bones of the turkey we had for Thanksgiving. I made a bunch of these, put them in the freezer, and now I will use them in this particular prep setup. So now what we have here is 4 vegetable and beef stir fries on white rice. So it's now 3:40 in the morning. Everything is done except for the chicken stew, which I'll finish up in a few hours, and then I'll put it in jars. Here we go with the last step for cooking tonight. This is 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, and I'm adding some, this is just chicken stock. We're going to season this as well. I have salt, pepper, garlic powder, granulated onion. You can see it's getting thicker already. This is poultry seasoning. What we have here now is called a roux, and it is the thickener for this stew. It's also where all the seasoning is going to come from. Apparently that camera is full, so we're just going to stir this in. And we're going to let that continue to cook. Well, it's 7:25 a.m. and the last of the dishes is done. I'm going to jar these up, pop them in the fridge. The glass jar is a little easier to deal with than a Tupperware, you know, like this with a lid. This far too easy to create a mess, far too easy to spill, and they get a little flimsy when you're trying to carry them full of hot liquid. Thank you for joining me on Cooking for Real today, where you saw that I had to pivot to make sure I can feed my family for the week. I made 5 different recipes, 20 completely different plates, and hopefully that's going to cover us all for the week.
The current weather is 28 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy skies. Today's forecast has rainy weather with a high of 40 degrees and a low of 28 degrees. There's nothing on the calendar for the rest of the day.
If you enjoyed watching Cooking for Real, please remember to like, click, comment, and subscribe.